Superstar's ex-wife. Chapter 1 and 2. Amanda. My back tensed when I heard him call me. The once familiar call sounded foreign somehow. He had recognized me then. How on earth will I get myself out of this situation? I cursed colorfully in my mind. But I needed to turn and look at him. Didn't I? It's really you, he said after I turned around. His eyes wide and filled with surprise. I had to give it to him. He was one hell of an actor. He sauntered towards me with a charming grin pasted on his face. I stood rooted to my place, internally trembling. My mouth was agape as I watched him close the distance between us, and then before I knew it, his lips were on mine. That broke my stupor. I raised my hands to push him away, but he swiftly caught them without stopping the kiss. I screwed my eyes shut. My lips remained unresponsive. I waited for him to finish the act. That is what it was to him, an act. My hands fisted while he tightened the hold. After what felt like an eternity, he pulled away. I opened my eyes to realize that we had attracted a large crowd. The cafe was practically overflowing with people. In my peripheral vision, I also noticed a lot of people snapping our pictures. Then my gaze settled on those brown orbs that I had once fallen in love with. My eyes mapped his sharp features before resting on his plush lips. I dragged my gaze back up only to find him looking back at me. I immediately averted my gaze. I was confident that my face was red with embarrassment. Of course. After all these years I still hadn't managed to get over him and his easy charm. Even after he left. Even after I lost everything for him. Even after carefully avoiding from hearing any news about him. Deliberately overlooking his photos in papers and magazines. Not keeping any tabs or updates about his shows or films, and resisting the urge to save and store every article written about him. My gaze traveled towards Tracy, who was openly gawking at me. Even Cassie looked stunned and Trevor looked shocked. Why wouldn't they be? After all, this did not happen every day. Why every day? This rarely ever happened. A waitress being kissed by one of the most famous superstars in Hollywood. This could be a good plot line for a film. What did they know? They knew nothing about the life I shared with the man in whose arms I was in at the moment. I was strategically cut out. Deleted from his personal history. I was no one. Not anymore. I swallowed back my tears. 5 years apart, and I was still getting emotional on meeting him like this. He had become even more roguishly handsome than he already was. His lips quirked up a little before he brought them near my ear. I felt his breath tickling my ear, sending shivers down my spine. Pretend for a while. I will tell you everything later. And just like that, my little bubble burst, sending me crashing back to reality. Amanda. A week ago. But Mr. Martin, I had never once taken a holiday for the past 2 years. I pleaded. But my employer did not seem to budge. I threw my arms up in the air. Frustrated. Simone, you can't fire me just because I took 2 days off. That too. For a legible cause. I was sick. He harumphed as he continued to dust the shelves for the 4th time. Please, Mr. Martin. I need this job. I begged because this was the only way for me to pay my bills and pay the rent, even though I was behind by a few months. But I was paying all right. You and your excuses. Laura told me. He began his complaints, but I rudely interrupted. Laura. That good-for-nothing woman who shows her face once in a blue moon and gets the paycheck anyway. Her. You know she is a lying bitch. I was seething by the end of my monologue. I was not unaware nor ignorant about Mr. Martin as favor to that woman. They were clearly fucking around. But that wasn't my business. I was mad because he opted to listen to her lies and not my genuine reasons. You won't say a word against her. My employer turned and glowered at me. I tried to rein in my anger and gulped down the injustice that was being done towards me. Mr. Martin, please try to, I began, but he snapped out. Now. Oh, now he had done it now. All right. I am leaving. Let's see who takes care of these books as well as I did. Also, don't think Laura is exclusively fucking you. She is sleeping around with others. Well, I hope this bookshop goes to the drain. I really do. You're an asshole. And with it I turned on my heels and stormed out, leaving a gaping and furious bookshop owner. Ta-ta-ta. Reality did not hit me like a brick wall as I stepped out. Oh no. It wouldn't happen to me. That feeling of hopelessness had long since evaporated in me. Now I survived and found ways to survive. While I was ranting and being a petty human being to my ex-employer, I was processing ways to find a new job. The dried leaves crunched under my worn-out sneakers-clad feet. I pulled the ragged hoodie a little tighter, balling my fists a little deeper into the pockets. My mind veered back to the bookshop. I liked working there, not because my employer was a ray of sunshine, but I liked the smell of books, taking care of them and at times sneaking off during lunch hours to read a few pages of the new arrivals. I was hired because I was very well acquainted with books since I love them. The customers were never disappointed, and that kept Mr. Martin from getting rid of me. He was not fond of me at all because at times people thought that I was the owner and not him. I would still have that job if not for that Laura. I cursed her in thousands of expletives that I could recall. I was drawn out of my thoughts as I heard a low jingle. I looked up to see a quaint little cafe on my left. It looked so aesthetic. I couldn't help but walk inside. It was tucked away from the hubbub of the streets. The bell jingled as I pushed open the glass door. Soft jazz music played in the background. My eyes scanned the place. It was fairly crowded. I took a corner seat and sat down. This wasn't in my plans, but I felt tired and weary all of a sudden. I sighed. It was just Monday and the first of the month, and here I was sitting in a cafe, literally jobless. Good morning, ma'am. What would you like to have? A cheerful voice pulled me out of my reverie. A girl of not more than 23 smiled down at me. I mustered a smile and asked, "What do you suggest?" I guess she got this a lot, so she promptly chirped, "Don't mind my blabbering mouth, but your face tells me you are in need of a large cup of latte and a bagel." Her grin did not falter, and I, too, realized that I had to eat in my breakfast as I had rushed to work. Before I ran my mouth and went with her suggestion, I asked, "How much?" She smiled this time. "Pay for the latte only, which is $2.50, and the bagel is on the house." I nodded, and once she got my approval with that, she waltzed away. I did mental math of the money that I would be left with after paying here. Do I need to tip them? It looked like an expensive cafe. I observed the customers. They all looked quite well-to-do, unlike me. I turned my gaze outside. As I watched the passers-by, my thoughts went back to the days when I used to be carefree. Days when I didn't need to worry about a month's expenditure or the need to save up for later use. My thoughts took the forbidden turn, going back once again to my family who abandoned me. To him, Dominic Giovanni, the man whom I had foolishly married 5 years back. The one who left me deserted for another. He must have even forgotten my existence now. Maybe I was just another blurred and forgotten face. My heart clenched at the thought. How he had become a superstar and was probably sweeping and charming ladies off their feet, and here I was jobless, desolate and broken. Thanks for listening to the Brava Novel audiobook. Welcome to download the Brava Novel app. Read the novel Superstar's Ex-Wife online and get the latest updates.